Hello, this is the Daily Forex Report for November 29th. We are looking at the US Japanese yen pair first. This pair closed to the upside, did move higher, closed higher. We are looking for that bias to continue to the upside. Look for it to potentially go as high as 8478. That's 8478. Possibly as low as 8338. And look for some resistance around the 84.50 mark, which is right about here, and look for a potential for this pair to hit some support if you come on down to the 83.82 mark. So right around in here. Okay, well, let's take a look at the Euro USD pair. This pair surged to the downside, still moving lower, biased is lower. Look for it to potentially potentially move up to 133.80, right around this area, and look for it to potentially go down to 1.2924. That's 29.24. Look for some resistance. Resistance around 3200. Look for some support around 130.50. Okay, let's take a look at the pound US dollar pair. This pair moved to the downside, did have a fairly large range considering the move to the upside and the downside. We've seen this before, as right here. We've even seen pullbacks, but overall this pair is moving to the downside. Biased is down, still looking for that direction. Look for it to potentially go down to the 157.23 mark, right around this area. Potentially moving as low as 1.5452. So that would be way down here, down around this area. We also have potential for resistance around the 156.50 area, and potentially hitting some support around the 1.5525. So right around this area. Okay, let's take a look at the US Swiss. This pair pulled back, did create an inside bar. It did it's starting to move sideways. I think that we still have a strong bias to the upside. You notice we moved sideways here for about a week, but yet it still moved to the upside. Long term, we're still moving up. So this temporary pullback won't be, most likely won't be that significant. If it does, we'll definitely take advantage of it. But look for this pair to potentially go as high as 1.0101. So breaking that 100 mark would be a pretty good indication that we're still continuing to the upside, possibly moving down to 0.9924. And look for this pair to hit some resistance around the 1.0055 mark, and potentially hitting some support around the 0.9945 mark. All right, well, as far as news announcements go, we actually have a decent number for this next session. We have the Euro at 5 a.m. Eastern releasing their CPI for November year to date. They're showing a hold at 1.9%. We also have at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time the Canadian dollars releasing the GDP, gross domestic product for September. They're showing a little bit of a slowdown, which would be negative news for the Canadian dollar, from 0.3% to 0.1%. We also have the U.S. releasing their consumer confidence report at 10 a.m. Eastern for November, showing an improvement from 50.2 to 52.6, which of course would be good news for the US dollar, which has been gaining strength over the past several sessions or weeks. We also have the Australian dollar releasing their GDP for the third quarter at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. They're also showing a decrease from 1.2% down to 0.5%, which would be a fairly significant drop, which could hurt the Australian dollar. And last but not least, we have the Chinese releasing their PMI manufacturing numbers for November at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And they're showing a slight increase from 54.7 to 54.8. Now, as far as what I'm looking for during this next session, we do have an inside bar that was created in the US Swiss. It was created by 1 pip, so it's fairly close, but nonetheless, still looking for it to, if we get a drop to the downside, the next area that we're going to look for, we have areas of resistance, resistance, and resistance, support and support. So to the downside, if we get a good break, the first place we're going to look for it to potentially slow is here. And then when we come on down a little bit further, we got a little bit more room for it to move. So to the downside at least, we'll be looking for a move of about 42 pips, and then another move of about another 40 pips or so down to about 85, 86 pips. So that's a good strong move to the downside if it does break to the downside. Now, as far as moving up, we need to back out a good ways to actually identify that. Maybe we can see it here. There we go, a little bit closer. You can see we have previous support here that we have. So we need to look, where's the next area really that we saw support or resistance to the upside from that point. And it's right in this range. And then above that, you can go a little bit higher up to about here. So to the upside, if we get a move to the upside, we're going to look for about 40 pips and then up to around 100 pips, 112 pips or so. The way I would play this is to go to break even. When you hit your first, if you sell right here, you hit your first target at this point. Go ahead and go to break even, so that it's a risk-free trade at that point. Then if it continues to run down, then that's just extra. Otherwise, you can exit without it costing you anything. Same thing to the upside. If we get a buy order, we can look for it to move on up from there and go to break even. The nice thing about inside bar trades is it really doesn't matter which direction the market moves. You're going to have the potential for a trade and for profit. Well, that about wraps us up for today. Until next time, this is Jason Fielder. Good trading.